right-to-work legislation zipped through the lame duck session of the Michigan legislature recently and was signed almost immediately by Governor Snyder. That means about 18% of the state's workforce will be directly affected by this change. Yet the speed at which this law went through left a lot of questions unanswered. That's why Warner Norcross and Judd labor lawyer Lou Rabeau is here today to talk to us. He's going to give us a quick overview and answer some questions about Michigan's new right-to-work law. First of all, Lou, could you briefly explain what the right-to-work law is?
Yeah, and maybe a better way to describe it would be right to choose. When it becomes fully effective, it means that unionized employees, or more specifically, those who work in a unionized workforce, have the right to choose whether to pay dues to the union or not.
Okay, so it will definitely affect unionized employees. What are the top three things that the employer of these unionized employees should know about right to work?
Now, the first thing I'd want to know is when's it effective, and it's going to be late March. My best estimate will be March 28th. So what it means is if you have a current contract right now that requires employees to pay dues, that contract and that requirement will stay in effect until it expires, which could be long after March 28th. So that obligation essentially will be grandfathered in. Mm-hmm. If your contract is currently being negotiated, and I have 3 being negotiated right now, the union's probably going to want to get a contract in place before March 28th, so the obligation will continue at least for the life of that contract.
Right.
If you become unionized or your contract expires after March 28th, then right to work will apply from that point going forward.
Okay. And from the worker's perspective, what are the 3 things that you think the unionized employee needs to know about right to work?
Right. Well, once right to work applies to that unionized employee, 3, I think, really key things. Number 1 is at that point you have the right to choose. Do I want to pay dues to the union or don't I? Second is whether you choose to pay dues or not, the union still has an obligation to represent you, just like it represents dues-paying members. And the third thing is that the union can prohibit you through its bylaws or constitution from voting in union elections if you're not a dues-paying member. And I'll just give you 2 examples of those kind of elections. One, an election to elect a steward. The second, though, might be the ability to vote on whether to ratify a contract with the employer.
Okay. And are there unionized workers who will be exempt from right to work?
Yeah, absolutely. And so some of those categories include those employees who might work for airlines, railroads. They're covered under the Railway Labor Act. So they're exempt from this law, or not covered by this law. Second would be federal government unionized employees. Mm-hmm. And the third, there is an exemption under this law for police and fire.
Okay. And finally, Lou and other labor lawyers at Warner Norcross and Judd welcome the opportunity to help employers with their questions on right to work. You can check us out at WNJ.com.